Okay.
Ready? I will call this meeting to order. This is the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation regular Board of Directors meeting for April 9th, 2026. It is 9:06 a.m. First order of business is to take a roll call. Would you please do so, Esther?
Today in attendance, we have Chair Gary Mackler, Vice Chair Carol Ryman, and Directors Seth Colby, Jason Bradshaw, and Designee Mary Alice Evans.
So we have 5 attendees, so we have established a quorum. Before we go on, I would like to ask both Director Colby and Director Ryman, if, since you are attending remotely, if you have anyone else with you present today. So
I am alone.
Okay, thank you. As we go through our agenda today, we will invite the public to give testimony for each of the agenda items. And I do want to read the instructions for providing testimony to the board. For those who are joining us virtually, when I open the floor for public testimony on an agenda item of interest, please click the raise hand icon on the Zoom toolbar. This will place you in the queue to speak. Those in the room, please raise your hand. Testifiers will be recognized in the order received during the designated agenda item. When called upon to testify, please state your name, your first and last name, and the name of the organization you represent, if any. Testimony will be limited to 3 minutes per person for each agenda item. Please ensure your remarks remain focused on the subject under consideration. Reach the 3-minute mark, a verbal time notification will be given. Please conclude your remarks at that point to ensure we stay on schedule for all speakers. While this time is specifically designated for public comment to ensure all voices are heard, the board will not engage in direct dialogue. However, please be assured that your comments are being recorded and will be thoroughly reviewed by all members. Okay, so with that, I would like to go to Section 2 of the agenda. This is the approval of minutes, regular board meeting minutes for March 12th, 2026. We have a motion, and do we have a second?
Second.
Gonna be the motion people today. Directors, is there any discussion on the March 12th regular board meeting minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Vice Chair Ryman, you're on mute. If you could unmute and please express your vote on the board meeting minutes.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So any opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion carries. Next, we will go on to section 3 of the agenda. This is discussion and or decision making. Under item A, this is to approve the updated financing structure for the proposed Lanai Keola self-help housing project located in Nanakule, Oahu, TMK number 1-8-7-008076. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. And we have a second. I'll have you present and then I'll invite public testimony. So why don't you go ahead and.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair and members of the board. My name is Albert Palmer. I'm the Development Section Chief at HHFDC. This for action is to approve the updated financing structure for the Nana Ikeola project. This is a new 87-unit single-family affordable housing project in Nanakuli, Oahu, which will utilize a self-help housing model. The units will be affordable to families earning 50% to 80% of the area median income, or AMI. This project has received 201H exemptions that were processed by the city. On September 8th, 2022, the board approved a dwelling unit revolving fund, or DERF, interim loan for $7,679,563. The DERF for action is attached as Exhibit A. The DERF loan will be used for the land development work related to the subdivision and infrastructure improvements. At the time of the DERF for action, the proposed financing structure was as shown at the top of page 2. The senior loan is from Rural Community Assistance Corporation, RCAC. It was expected at that time to be bifurcated such that RCAC had one loan senior to the DERF loan and a second loan subordinate to the DERF loan. Instead, RCAC will have one single loan, which will be senior to the DERF loan. This was approved by the executive director via IOM in 2022. And the financing structure at that time was as shown at the bottom of page 2. On November 20th, 2025, the board approved an AHRF, Affordable Homeownership Revolving Fund interim loan in the amount of $4,791,800 for the project. The AHRF for action is attached as Exhibit B. The financing structure as of that time was as shown at the top of page 3. The current financing structure as to the land development is shown at the bottom of page 3, and the current financing structure as to the entire project, including vertical construction of the homes, is as shown on the top of page 4. These numbers represent an increase, partially due to the general contractor's bid. The developer engaged in value engineering and was able to achieve substantial savings from the original GC bid, which is reflected in the current budget. Since the initial approval for the DERF loan, the senior loan has been expanded from 7.9 million to 13.1 million and has been restructured into a single loan so that all of its 13.1 million is senior to HHFDC. There is no change to the amounts of the DERF loan or AHRF loans. While these amounts remain unchanged, staff is presenting the for action for an updated approval in light of the increase in senior financing. Subsequent changes to the project financing structure and budget are unlikely as the developer has already secured a lowered bid and a performance bond from the contractor to complete the subdivision work. However, staff is recommending that the board delegate authority to the executive director to approve further changes in the financing structure and budget of up to 10% to prevent administrative delays and ensure timely closing of the DERF and AHRF loans, which are expected to close shortly. Closing is anticipated to occur when the permits are ready to be issued for the subdivision work. DERF and AHRF will close at the same time. Staff recommends that the board approve the updated financing structure for the project and authorize the executive director to approve changes of up to an additional 10% of this updated financing structure and project budget. Changes greater than 10% would be brought back to the board. And staff are available to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thanks, Albert. Before we go to questions, I do want to ask if there's anyone in the public who would like to give testimony for this agenda item. Do we have anyone with their hands up? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn it now to directors if you have questions for staff. Is there anyone right here? From the Self-Help Housing Corporation?
Unfortunately, due to the fact that we had to prepare this on short notice, there is Claudia Shea, the representative from Self-Help Housing Corporation, is not available today.
Staff can take questions.
Sure, absolutely. Do we have any questions, directors?
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Director Colby?
So for the RCAC, who is the administrator or the originator of those loans?
I don't have all those kind of details on hand, that we can get you that information.
So it's not a federal, is it a federal loan, or is this organization a federal, or is it a private?
It's a private nonprofit.
RCAC is a private nonprofit, okay. And then do you have information on the
Or
interest
I
rate?
believe it's a nonprofit, but it is a private lender.
It's a private lender, okay. Do you have information on the interest rates on the 3 different loans, RCAC, DERF, and AHRF?
Yes, Danny, do you have the AHRF?
The ARF interest loan rate is 1%.
And the DERF loan is I believe it's 3%. Sorry, it's 5% for this loan. I don't have the RCAC interest rate on hand, but we can get you that information as well.
Okay. And then also I wasn't on the board when this was originally approved, so I'm not as familiar with the business plan of the self-help. Will the families own their homes at the very end of this?
Yes,
Yeah. And is there any restrictions on like selling or?
yeah, they're subject to HHFDC resale and buyback provisions. So they'll be restricted.
And what are the?
10-year buyback and short appreciation restrictions.
Okay. In your buyback. And and the other thing I was like really pleasantly surprised with this loan was the cost per unit was a lot lower than in a lot of other places. What is that because land was cheaper, or is this because of their business model of actually supplying labor, or what do you think contributes to the lower value per unit or amount per unit?
Yeah, I think the biggest factor is the self-help housing model where they will, after the infrastructure development, there will be teams of families that will close on their purchase of the land, and they will construct the home, and they put in a certain amount of sweat equity into the construction of the home. Self-help housing corporation is also able to secure donations in kind from contractors and material suppliers as well, which helps drive down the costs of the construction.
And how much of that also has to do with it that like these are like basically single family unit houses versus high-rise construction? Is that a big difference in cost per unit as well?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So these are going to be 3 to 4 bedroom houses, and they will be, yes, single family lots.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Colby. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Have an audible response.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Chair Ryman, we need an audible response. If you could unmute, please.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, next agenda item is item 3B. This is to approve 1, WCT Partners LLC or successor entity approved by the Executive Director as an eligible developer pursuant to section 15-307-24 Hawaii Administrative Rules, and 2, a dwelling unit revolving fund interim loan for construction of regional infrastructure improvements for the Waikapu Country Town backbone infrastructure located in Waikapu, Maui, TMK numbers 2-3-6-002-003, 2-3-6-004-003, and 006 2-3-6-005-007 and 2-3-6-006-036. There a motion on the floor? We have a motion to approve, and do we have a second? We have a second. Okay, I'm gonna wait to take testimony until your presentation is over.
Good morning and thank you, Chair and members of the board. My name is B. Vera Wood, Project Manager, Development Section, and I assisted in the preparation for this action. Just want to note that the request for the DERF interim loan amount is for $17 million. Waikapu Country Town is a master plan mixed-use community located in central Maui. At full build-out, the Waikapu Country Town will provide up to 500 multi-family and single-family workforce housing, 900 single-family market rate housing, 146 ohana units, commercial spaces, and other community facilities. The build-out will mostly be developed by third-party developers. On November 7, 2025, the Maui County Council adopted resolution number 25-207, approving the project for the state of Hawaii, the loan to develop and construct infrastructure improvements under subsection 201H-191.95 HRS. The resolution was introduced by the mayor and supported by the Maui County Housing Agency. On December 11, 2025, HHFDC Board approved the establishment of regional infrastructure sub-account within DERF for the County of Maui. The sub-account may be used to provide DERF regional infrastructure loans to private developers for infrastructure improvements within the county. In January 2026, WCT Partners LLC, the applicant and developer, submitted an application for the interim loan in the amount of 17 million to partially finance the construction of the Waikapu Country Town Backbone Infrastructure Phase 1 project. The developer is a newly formed partnership between Waiale 905 Partners, Waikapu Properties, and MTP Land Partners. The developer has experience implementing similar regional infrastructure projects on the mainland and has provided documents showing local government and public support for this project. The project will enable development in the first phase to proceed, which include Aikanaha Residences, 212-unit affordable multi-family rental project for household earning up to 60% of the area median income. A school site, 130 market rate dwelling units, and a park site. The infrastructure improvements are also required for the first phase subdivision lot approval. The first phase infrastructure improvement will include roadway construction, potable and non-potable water system, underground utilities, a signalized intersection, and a stormwater retention basin. The county has allocated sewer capacity for the first phase, and water will be serviced by the project private water system. The for action section 3C and D show the proposed budget and source of funds for the project. The estimated project cost is 68 million. The project will mostly be funded by phase 1 lot sale proceeds and the developer's cash equity. The developer's cash equity combined with the purchase and sale agreement with third-party developers equal to about 50% of the budget. Based on the market study, the applicant is confident that the remaining subdivision lots to be sold to individual buyers will sell in a timely manner, and the developer is willing to contribute additional cash to ensure the project is completed on schedule. The applicant is not seeking other interim financing sources. The loan to cost ratio of the loan is 25%. The primary purpose of the DERF loan is to ensure continuous funding for infrastructure improvements in the event of lot sale revenues delay, and to provide credit enhancement for the developer to secure a subdivision bond. This for action seeks the following terms for the DERF interim loan for the project. A principal amount of up to 17 million, inclusive of fee amounts, made available on a drawdown basis. The loan would be a first mortgage, non-recourse loan secured by fee simple interest in the Waikapu Country Town's real property or other collateral acceptable to HHFDC. An interest rate of 3% compounded annually, a loan term of 3 years, non-revolving, an origination fee of 2%. A loan service fee of 0.3% of the loan amount charged annually, and repayment would be cash or in-kind payment of improved real property, provided that the value shall not be less than the loan amount, and there will be no prepayment penalty. Staff finds that the project's proposed infrastructure improvements are consistent with the purpose of HAR 15-307-242B, the utilization of the regional infrastructure loan. Per HAR 15-307-246B, the selection criteria. Applicant has provided sufficient evidence in support of its request for their financing assistance for the project, subject to condition for loan closing. HAR 15-307-247, staff finds that the project meets the minimum threshold requirements for the regional infrastructure financing assistance. The estimated construction start date for the project is by October 2026. The estimated completion date is by October 2020. Staff also finds that the applicant is an eligible developer pursuant to HAR 15-307-24. The borrower request meets minimum proposal requirements per HAR 15-307-26. As of March 31st, 2026, the funds balance is negative $494,093. However, DERF has a $50 million appropriation from the 2024 legislature, which is scheduled to be credited to the DERF account in June of this year or earlier if needed. Per the DERF subcommittee's guidelines for risk exposure for DERF loans, the project has a moderate to high risk profile overall, as noted in section 3Q, mainly due to the timing uncertainty of the lot sale. Staff's recommendation is that the board approve these 4 actions and authorize the executive director to undertake all action necessary to effectuate the purpose of this 4 action, subject to availability of funds, the release of funds by the governor, and other terms and conditions that may be required by the executive director. And the developers here today to answer any question about the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on, I want to ask if there's anyone in the public who would like to offer testimony. Maybe what we could do is come on up, and then we can open it up for questions.
Good morning. My name is Albert Boyce. I'm a manager of Waikapu Properties, Maui. Happy to answer any questions regarding the project. Many years.
I do have an initial question on the sale of the market lots to raise revenue for the infrastructure. What's your how many lots do you anticipate needing to sell to raise the revenue that you need to?
It's part of the first phase of backbone infrastructure. There's 31 rural lots on the hillside of Waikapu. So we conducted an appraisal on that. We had appraisal for the school site also that was similar values. We feel confident be able to meet the appraised numbers. We have our subdivision report application in DCCA. Once we receive that approval, we will actually be able to market the lots. Thus far, we've done no marketing, simply an email list, and have for the past year over 400 interested parties. I'd say 90% of those are not realistic, but parsing that list, we have over 45 people now that are we consider based on local conditions, knowing people on Maui, serious buyers. So our cash flow we did for V is we're not looking to even sell those lots towards the back end of the project. Basically, the other lot sales to help the financing or the school site, Aikanaha residences, and then there's also 99 market rate lots we're finalizing a contract with DR Horton. So I think we'll have sufficient time. We can actually start marketing over a 2-year process or so to sell those lots. There's very little to no supply on Maui.
Your market study, you mentioned a market study shows what does it show for absorption for the sale of those market, like in terms of time?
Absorption 3 or 4 a month, but stretch that 3 or 4 a month over a couple of years. That's not an issue.
Director Evans.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One, since the county has identified this as their urban growth, within their urban growth boundary, is the entire area still in the state agricultural district?
So Land Use Commission, we had a change in zoning back in 2017. Part of the component, like Country Town, is we have an 800-acre ag reserve. So that's a permitted ag reserve, ag easement on it. So we have our farmers that we've supported over the years, and that'll be a component of the town. So one component of the town is 800 acres of ag, permitted ag that's already active.
Okay, and the rest has already been redistricted to urban?
Correct. And I think a county zone is like a country town.
Your private water system, is that owned by?
It's owned by us. 10 years ago, we tried to work with the county on county water, and that was not an option. So we received approval from Department of Health, Safe Drinking Water 6 or 8 months ago, as far as the private water system design. We have 2 potable wells that will alternate for the potable water supply, and we also have a non-potable well. One of our conditions of approval is a parallel system, so we'll have non-potable water for landscaping and non drinkable needs, and then the potable system.
And are elements of that plan still pending before the Commission on Water Resource Management?
They approved that also when we got our prior to our DOH approval.
Sounds very encouraging.
It's as we all know, water is very precious. So there's been a lot of study of wells that are there in Waikato Aquifer, and so it's there.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Directors, any additional questions? Okay, if not, all those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Good luck. Moving on to item 3C of the agenda today is to approve proposed amendments to the compilation of chapter 15-309. The dwelling unit revolving fund equity pilot program, Hawaii administrative rules to provide clarification to appreciation of value, meet federal lending requirements, and make technical amendments. Is there a motion? So moved. We have a motion. Second. We have a second. Go ahead and present, and then I'll take testimony.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. My name is Lorna Komitani. I'm the Real Estate Services Section Chief. And I'm bringing forth this for action for your review and approval. This for action seeks your approval to amend and compile the the Dwelling Unit Revolving Fund Equity Pilot Program Rules, Chapter 15-309 Hawaii Administrative Rules, as indicated in the attached Exhibit A, to assist the Real Estate Services section with implementing and monitoring the program in an efficient and effective manner. The purpose of the Dwelling Unit Revolving Fund Equity Pilot, or DEP program, is to implement the provisions of Act 92, Sessions Laws of Hawaii 2023, providing for the eligibility, sale of dwelling units in designated development projects, repayment of this DEP funding program. As indicated in Section 2B, amendments of the chapter are being sought to clarify definitions, amend fees, and comply with federal mortgage lending requirements to purchase a dwelling unit. These amendments are intended to make the requirements consistent with Act 92 and easier to understand and enforce.
The proposed amendments are intended to address the consequences as listed in section 2C. Failure to adopt the requested amendment will make it hard for HHFDC to effectively monitor and enforce the program, particularly the repayment of the amount that's provided by the agency. And also for inhibit the eligible buyers from getting financing, renewable financing under the FAN. In the event that unit owners are in default, then we want to make sure that their financial obligation is paid. And the amendments are intended to. Substantive provisions of the amendments are summarized in section 3. And it's also outlined in Exhibit A. And recommendation is being made for your approval of the proposed amendments and compilation of chapter 15-309, administrative rules, subject to approval as to form by the HHFDC's Department of Attorney General and Governor's approval to authorize the executive director or his designated representative to conduct a public hearing. And after the public hearing, to authorize the executive director to transmit the rules to the governor for final. I can address any questions you might have.
Okay, first, let me ask if we have anyone in the public that would like to give testimony. Hearing none, directors, do you have questions for Lorna?
I do have a question for the chair. Lorna, I notice on in Exhibit A, under I think subject fee schedule, proposed changes to the fee schedule. It looks like a lot of different actions by corporation are now being added to the fee schedule, so the total amount instead of being 500. The 2,000, right? Is this going to be a hindrance to borrowers?
Currently, it is consistent with what we have under the buyback and SAE program. A lot of the changes or the amendments that were made was so that we could implement a system, a procedure, if you will, in which to have them repay the amount that we're providing. And also on the front end, when they're going through the initial closing process, that we are reviewing multiple documents from the buyer, with regard to the first mortgage loan, making sure that it's consistent with the sales prices, as well as to ensure that our amount is being included, what that amount is. So it is consistent with the current process that we use for the buyback and the SAE program to assure that they're not borrowing more than the contract sales price and that everything is accounted for as far as full disclosure as to the amounts, as well as the amount that we're providing as part of the purchase.
And can these fees be rolled into the loan?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Directors, any further questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Lorna. Okay, we'll go on next to section 4 of today's agenda, which is the report by the executive director.
Thank you, Taylor. Consider report, we're gonna provide for the. Okay, good morning, Chair Mackler and members of the board. My name is Dean Watasi and I'm the housing planning manager and the legislative coordinator. I would like to introduce Leila Kilolu, as she's been recently hired as a new legislative coordinator. So you'll be seeing more of her as we move forward. Okay, I'll be providing a status update on the bills we're tracking this session. as of March 27, we're monitoring 96 bills of interest. And HHFDC is the lead on 25 of them. Okay, so if you go to Exhibit C, it summarizes the key housing bills we're following. And the good news is that the 6 bills that I highlighted last month are all moving forward. Okay, so on House bills HB 1711. That should be the fourth page of Exhibit C, so HB 1711. This bill amends HHFDC's rent-to-own program by replacing the 5-year purchase period with a more flexible option period, so that's moving forward. The second bill I want to highlight is HB 1724. That's HB 1724. This bill makes the dwelling unit revolving fund equity pilot program permanent. The third bill is HB 1727. HB 1727. This bill gives HHFDC the authority to transfer funds between the rental housing revolving fund and its mixed income subaccount. Okay, the fourth bill is HB 1733. HB 1733. This bill increases the Hula May multifamily revenue bond ceiling amount, continue financing affordable rental housing projects. Okay, so the fifth bill is HB 2270. HB 2270. So this bill updates HHFDC's down payment assistance program that assists low and moderate income first-time home buyers. Okay, the final bill is SB 2338. SB 2338. This bill would provide HHFDC with autonomy in personnel matters. This concludes the key measures I wanted to highlight today. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions, directors? Yes, Director Evans.
Dean, have these measures all passed their final committee and are moving to conference?
Okay, so I think HB 1711 and HB 1733 passed. The others are waiting to be heard. WAM, we've notified WAM that, we want them to schedule.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Dean. Other updates I'd like to provide to the board are for the Hale Kamaina program. We did lower the interest rate for the program effective April 1st. And we received 2 reservations for the program so far. We're getting some traction out there, so that's good news.
Plus, there was a very nice ad in the Sunday paper.
Oh, was that, which bank did that? No, I thought, was it ours? Yeah. Okay, want to also update you for the Kona Low. There was no substantial damage. Well, there was one property in Waihole where lessee was affected. There was a large banyan tree which fell on their house and the house is no longer habitable. Lessee was injured. Property is covered by the homeowner's insurance though, so insurance will take care of the rebuild of the property. Also on Maui, our Hale'oli'i property did have some moderate flooding in some areas. It is still occupiable. So we're working with risk management on paying for that property. But we're not aware of any other damage to our properties or any of our finance properties that have had substantial damage.
Can I, Chair, may I ask a
Please.
clarifying question? Are HHFDC's assets covered by the state's self-insurance? Insurance coverage?
For properties which we own, such as Hale'oli'i, they are. Others, such as our properties in Waihole, where they are leased to other parties, they're required to have their own insurance to cover them, the property. Thank you. For our transfer of infrastructure in Kapolei, this Kapolei, we're still waiting for the city to execute the MOA. We are flipping them. So that is a pending action. One item of legislation that I wanted to touch on is there was a concurrent resolution which is urging DLNR to partner with HHFDC and HCDA for development of what's called the East Kapolei TOD lands. So those are state lands in East Kapolei, right next to one of the transit stations. So whether or not the resolution passes, we are talking to DLNR about us basically having a more active role in the planning and implementation of housing being developed on that property. So that would be a significant undertaking by the agency. It's about 170 acres, I believe, of lands. So right now, staff is looking at the site plan and looking at the commitments to the property and taking the initial steps to see if amendments to the site plan should be undertaken. And what the next steps would be to start building housing on the site.
Chair. For the members' information, the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development testified on that measure, and we did suggest to the legislature that the industrial parcels might not need to be transferred to HHFDC, and that revenue from the parcels might be retained by DLNR to fund their programs. Understand that those are issues for DLNR that are important to them, therefore might be something that could result in a positive outcome in terms of a transfer to the HHFDC for the housing opportunities.
And last item of note is that, we've been working on with our consultants to identify parcels where HHFDC can take the lead in building housing projects upon. There are 2 parcels in Kapolei that we've identified that we actually own that are underutilized. So we are taking the first steps into assessing the feasibility of the property. And, we'll bring this to the board for additional information. It turns out that these are sites that we could do projects upon.
Thank you. Okay, well, that leaves us with the last item of business, adjournment. Is there a motion, directors, to adjourn? So here's a motion. We have a second. All those in favor? Probably. Say aye. Okay, motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Where the Robert's rules does